Thank you to our sponsors, Little Voices. Are you a teacher with a passion for drama, music and performance, or feeling stuck in the classroom? Little Voices gives you the chance to step into a role where you can truly inspire young minds through the arts. This is a company I know well and admire. They're passionate about child development, highly rated and genuinely transformative. With small group teaching, a focus on confidence and creativity, with the opportunity to guide children through Lambda qualifications, you can make a real impact. Plus, with the support of a nationwide franchise network behind you, you can run your own successful business, doing what you love while teaching in a way that truly fits your life. Hello, and welcome to the Pit Pony Podcast with myself, Sharon Corley,
and me, Sarah Dunwood,
in which we talk to teachers from all walks of life who exited the classroom from what they thought was a job for life and thrived on the other side of teaching. Coming up in this episode,
I said, I'm really, really sorry. I said, I can't come in. I said, it's not, I'm not well. I said, it's just, I've been up all night crying. And it was true. I've been up since about 2 a.m, just going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I can't physically go back in that classroom. I can't do the job. I can't face people. And, and it was just, yeah. And but you know what had made me built up that courage was reading all the Life After Teaching Facebook page.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Pit Pony Podcast. Great guest today, as all of our guests are. We've got Lisa Mead. And Lisa Mead did 20 years in the primary sector. Loved it. And has used words like passion. She had a real passion for teaching. But Lisa's story is one that I think many of our listeners will actually relate to, because we're going to talk about that insurmountable workload, needing the 80th hour in the week and thinking that's pretty standard. And talking us through her life and her career as a teacher, right up until the point where one day she sends a text message. That's it. It's a fascinating, fabulous story told best by Lisa herself. So Lisa, no longer in the classroom, but still in the world of education. Welcome to our podcast. Can I ask, what is it you do today?
So I am an online teacher now. I'm on an online tutor. Still call myself a teacher. But yes, I do online tutoring, specialising in home education mainly. So there's a lot of children during the day. There's a lot of children that need that help, that are just kind of lost, a lot of parents that are lost. And it's kind of something I've fallen into. I sort of turned to tutoring as a kind of, okay, well, that's my next step out of the classroom. And then it's kind of just taken its own path, really. And it's kind of gone, oh, okay. Oh, well, people are asking about this. So, okay, well, let's see where this goes. And it's just, compared to what a year ago, I just wouldn't have even, if you'd told me, oh, you'll be doing, groups of 14 children and you'll be all online, I'd have gone, I can't do that. I can't do Zoom. I can't put myself out and, advertise myself on Facebook and everything. But it's been an amazing whirlwind of discovery and just freedom. It's kind of almost someone's opened a jar. I've come out of my bottle and it's just gone, actually, you've got the whole world. You're not just a teacher in a classroom. You have now got all these opportunities that you never had before. And it's just really exciting. And it's just exciting going, wow, what could I do next with this? And where could I go? And, what are the possibilities? And yeah, so I find that really exciting at the moment. It's, it's not just, perfect. Yeah, you're out of that little cage, you're out of that classroom cage, I call it.
And it's because we are going to talk about the world that Sarah and I sit very much in, which is the world of tutoring. And we will get into that. And we will get into something that you've just said. It's all there waiting for you. It is all there waiting for you. You've just got to be in a position and ready to accept it. But before we get to the genie coming out of the bottle, let's go right back to the point where you were very much in that bottle, in that world, and things were not where they are today. So, Lisa, start us where you feel most comfortable starting us with, whether it's the start of the end. It's over to you.
That could take a while. Yeah, because I have, like I said, I've been teaching since 2006. So qualified in 2006, and obviously the world of teaching is just totally different to how it was 20 years ago. You know, you rocked up as an NQT. It was still tough. It was, you know, PGCE was tough. NQT year was tough, but it was that kind of, you had that aspiration and you had that excitement and you had that, wow, I'm a teacher and this is great. And this doesn't even feel like a job because I'm enjoying it so much and because the children are lovely and, you know, and I've got all this support and everything. So it was, yeah. So to start with, I mean, I sort of dabbled around. I sort of went to different schools because I like change. I kind of like that variety. I'm not someone to kind of stay in the same school for 20 years. So I went abroad. I've been abroad for 3 years. I didn't study, I taught in Kuwait for 3 years, which was an amazing experience and made some amazing friends. And I have been lucky with where I've worked. I've always had amazing colleagues, mostly supportive head teachers and SLT. But yeah, but I suppose my story would really start from that kind of turning point when I realized, actually, I don't think I can do this anymore. And it was probably around the time when I had my second child. So I had my first child. I wasn't really teaching then. I was kind of doing a bit of supply teaching. You know, I was kind of dabbling. So it didn't really affect me too much. And it wasn't until I decided then, I think once my eldest was 3, 4, I kind of went, do you know what? I want to go back into full-time teaching. You know, I feel like I'm ready. Let me go back. I've had 2-year break of supply teaching and whatever. And joined this really lovely school. Amazing. They were in a bit of a crisis, I think, at the time with management. And I think they basically had a head come in because a head had gone out. Because he just wasn't mismanaging the school. So I was brought in along with like 3 other teachers. And it was fine. It was actually manageable. And then I obviously became pregnant, went off on maternity leave. And then I'm kind of, whilst I was on maternity leave, I just had this realization of, oh my God, I don't think I want to go. Or I didn't miss it, which was really weird for me. It was kind of like, because even with my first one, I still had that desire to go back, but there was something telling me, I don't want to leave my baby. All I want to do now is just be a mum and be present and be with them and make sure I'm there for them. It's not about me anymore. And I think that was a really big transition because when you're a teacher and you don't have any children and you don't have a family to see to, it's fine. Like, you know, I was in one school. I used to stay behind for everything. I used to stay behind for all the productions. I used to help out, and it helped that all my colleagues were like basically my friends as well. But you make that jump when you become a parent. I almost think there's a turning point where you just kind of go, actually, I've got different priorities now. I've got children and they have to come first, and my teaching doesn't come first. But unfortunately, the job isn't like that. The job's not, no, you can't take a back seat. You have to, you know, carry on.
And don't you find, because I know this has happened to me and it happened to a lot of people we talk to, there are different versions of yourself throughout your career as a teacher. So when you talked about that being all in, I'm at every production, my entire social life was all of my friends. Yeah. We would go out drinking. I had an age, I was in a cohort of a similar age. The older teachers had come out with us and I was absolutely all in. But when I came back and I wasn't all in, I was in as much as I should be, which is I'm working, I've not dropped any balls. My face no longer fit then, and I felt I went from the sunshine into the shade when I came back after my maternity leave. And it's a very, very common theme because all of a sudden, because you were overgiving and overperforming, now you're just doing what is expected of you as a teacher. I mean, I don't know if you've seen any of those kind of trends, Sarah, in your long and lengthy career.
I was on the receiving end of that, being in the sunshine to the shade, but even before I'd had the baby. And I think my child, sorry, the baby,
son.
My son, I remember distinctly being under the wing of a really strong deputy head when I was a young teacher, not that young, but young. And it almost felt like the minute that she found out that I was pregnant, I was cast out from under the wing and left to be. And I think partly that was to do with that preconceived idea that, oh, well, once she has a baby, then she's not going to be committed to being a teacher, which is actually so far from my reality, because I'm sat here in guilt that I didn't prioritize my son. I got sucked into it.
I'll even go quite personal with an anecdote here. You've just described a deputy head who did that to you. So the deputy head who did it to me, strong female, unmarried, no children deputy head, who lived and breathed the school I was at the time, actually did a reading at my wedding. She did a reading at my wedding. And then when I came back a couple of years later, after maternity leave, walked past me in the corridor and didn't even say welcome back. True story.
And there's no need for that. There's no, it's just, I think I've always been quite lucky with my SLT. I have had the heads that you've described. I've had a head and a deputy where they've been childless. They haven't, they don't even, I think one was even a lodger in a house. And so she didn't even have a house to keep. So she literally would have staff meetings till about 6:30 at night. That was back when I was younger as well. So I didn't really speak up as much, because when you're younger and you're starting, you're kind of just in your career, you're just like, oh, I'm still young, and oh, I'm still, I'm a keen bean. It doesn't matter if I'm here late. That's okay. And then it's only when you get older, actually, I realized I was becoming that old dinosaur in the like when I was younger, there were these older teachers in the staff, and they'd be going, oh, we've done this. Oh, we did this 10 years ago. Oh, and I'd sit there.
It's never going to work at our school.
I've gone, oh, they're a bit miserable. Oh, but then I suddenly realised, actually, in my last year, I was becoming that person. I was the one going, well, that's ridiculous. That's not going to work. Da-da-da. And I realised I was speaking my mind a bit too much, and because I wasn't happy. But yeah, it was, and that was because of the workload.
I always frame it in this way. For clarity, let's assume we have got a non-educationalist as a listener. What are you talking about workload? I'm an accountant. What are you talking about workload? I manage a huge warehouse of 40 people. What workload can a teacher have? I mean, they can sit down all day. They finish at 3:00. They get 14 weeks holiday a year.
I get so clever. I have to really hold my tongue when people,
So let's just for a minute have this concept of what we mean by workload. I'll give you a starter for 10. You've got a to-do list as long as your arm. You've got classes to prepare. You might have a couple of responsibility points. And people don't manage deadlines. They ask you to do something and they want it done with an unreasonable amount of time to turn it around. And I'm going to double down on it. Somebody else has asked you to do something similar in just a slightly different way.
Yeah.
So it's multiplication of tasks with very unreasonable deadlines. Right.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. We once had a coordinator meet where basically there was a staff meeting and there were actions given out that every subject coordinator had to go around and do all these things. And then literally the next week, there was just an email from everyone to everyone about what they had to do. And all of a sudden you were like, oh, okay, so I've got to make sure my English books do that. And I've got to give them this many maths books. And it was just crazy. And we just sort of went, this is ridiculous. Like, you haven't staggered this. You should have staggered it and made sure that everyone had an opportunity, because everyone's asking everything of you all of a sudden. I mean, I often describe it to people who don't teach. I describe it as, okay, take your daily job, what you do in your office or whatever you do. I said, and then imagine you can't do that job for 6 hours a day. Imagine you can't do that job. But then you've still got to do all the work you've got to do. And then people are like, oh, but that's not teaching. And I said, yes, it is. I said, you don't understand the amount of admin. And what makes me laugh is, in the last couple of years, actually, you'd get people popping in your classroom at the head going, oh, did you get my email? this is at 11 o'clock and I'm going, no, Dad, no, I haven't, because like I've been teaching. I haven't even been on I haven't checked my emails. Like, and you would get people doing that to you, going, did you get my email? And you're like, no, sorry, I've been in front of a class of 30 children, one of whom has now attacked someone, one of whom has kicked off and chucked some books over the desk, and and it's like, really.
The teaching is the smallest part of the job when it should be the biggest.
Yeah,
there's a good friend of ours talked to us a couple of weeks ago over darts and football about the Pareto principle, about 80%, 20%.
Yeah.
And what should be happening in teaching is 80% of the time should be teaching, and 20% of it should be the bits that sit around the side.
Absolutely.
And the only way to do the job is you do the 80%, and then you have, and I know mathematicians are going to go mental at me now, but then you have another 100% that sits around it with all the extraneous nonsense that gets piled on. And it's that, for me, it's the absence of coordination. Were you primary or secondary?
Primary.
Okay. So my experience is in secondary, and you've got multiple people with multiple responsibilities at middle and senior leadership who've all got targets to, and so they're all throwing things at you, including me as a secretary.
I would, yeah.
I need you to do this for this child, and blah, blah, blah. And there's no coordination. So there's that for me. And then I want to go to what you said about email, because we've talked about this on a previous podcast, I think, Sharon, with somebody, where you don't respond to the email because you are teaching and you're expected to be fully focused on your class, rightly so. And then you get roasted for not responding to an email. But then conversely, if you respond to an email whilst you're teaching, you get roasted for why you are not.
Why you're on your computer, why you're on your laptop when you should be with your class.
But it's interesting what you said then. You talked about you've tried explaining it to people in a certain way. Now, this is what I said. Imagine you have got 2 full-time jobs, completely and utterly separate. They might feel like they're the same, and they called one of them a responsibility or a promotion. But I was a head of year and I was an English teacher. Okay. An English teacher is a full-time job. Full-time job. And a head of year was the full-time job. So imagine you're an accountant. That's your full-time job. But somebody promotes you to a mechanic. And you've got a full-time workload of that of a mechanic. So some days you're fixing the cars, and then you've got to flip and go back and do somebody's bookkeeping. But because it's all housed under one roof, but don't worry about it. They give you 3 hours a day to do the job as the mechanic, and that's
3 hours a week.
3 hours a week. Sorry, 3 hours a week. Correct. Oh, she's going to jump through the screen then and headbutt me. And then this is where it becomes, depending on who's managing you at the time, your head of department's having a go at you because you've not done some nonsense, the hoops that you've jumped through. Then you go down to the pastoral route where there's some serious balls that can be dropped as well. And then this is where it becomes really great. And if your face no longer fits, you are prime to be put on a support plan because you're not doing your job properly. But you've set me up with a job that I can't even do anyway. Oh, and here's the interesting thing. In order to support me, you're going to give me more work to do.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense, does it? I think I escaped before I was put on a support plan because I vowed that if I was ever pulled into that office and told you're on a support plan, I said I'd give my notice.
And that's an interesting point. And that's really interesting. And I want to bring this. We had a meeting today with Nick Smart, part of the campaign team from Silenced by Support, and we are trying to get facts, figures, and some stats. That was really interesting, Sarah, to hear what Lisa said. If they even threatened me with support, I would resign. So there is a whole body of people who don't even show up on our statistics who have been the victims of a threatened support plan, Sarah.
Or implied. It's the not even threatened. It's the implication that it's there looming. It's become part of the culture within some institutions that somebody knows somebody who's been put on one of these and they've been disappeared, and that's enough. The implication that it might be used against you. And it's really interesting in terms of part of the conversation we had this morning is that we have gone out with some freedom of information requests, and it's what has come back is hiding what we know to be the truth, because so many people are jumping before they get there. And I don't think we'll ever scratch the surface of what those numbers are.
It's just awful to see, because there's so many amazing teachers out there. There are so many amazing, caring. I witnessed a teacher that was just absolutely, she was the most passionate, she was in her 50s as well, bless her. But she was still there. She was present.
Right, she just wind you back on that, bless her. Right.
Yeah, no, you've got two 50-year-old women here.
You've got two women who you've just nodded to, bless her. She was in her 50s. Next, you're going to be telling me I'm in danger of having a fall. Cut her off. Cut her off. Mike Roberts better cut this out. She was in her 50s, bless her.
And she still had the spark for teaching, which I didn't like,
You are digging a right hole for yourself here, love. We're in our prime.
Do you know what though? I think it's me. I think I've been damaged. I think because me and another teacher just went, look, we're dead behind the eyes now. But she isn't. She is so there, and she's so present, and she's so willing to just, wanting to do well for the kids and everything else. But she was so. I just meant in comparison to me. I just thought in 10 years' time, will I be like that? No, I won't be. That sort of thing. I'm not far back.
So anyway, moving on, and you can go off people really quickly. So, right,
is it now?
Let's get to the point where you suddenly go, I've got two kids.
Yeah.
I'm doing nonsense more than anything.
Yeah.
Send text. Talk me through to the point where you go,
oh, the text.
Yes. Run up to this.
Yeah. It was just so I'd had my second child. I'd come back for a year, taught year 6. I was part of a really, really supportive team at that point though. And I'd come back as a part-time teacher for 3 days a week. And I had a really, really good year partner. I had a really good class partner. I've forgotten the name that you would call them now because my brain is just foggy. Job share. That's the word. Job share.
That's the word.
I know it is honestly, I was saying to Sarah, I said my brain fog is ridiculous. It's just, yeah. I've had to write stuff down. So I'm like, what's my life again? Tell me what my life.
What's my name?
So I came back, had a really supportive team. I enjoyed it actually, because there was 4 of us in the whole year group. So actually, looking back, I was doing a quarter of the work. And it was fine, it was good. It was, we worked quite well together. It was brilliant. Anyway, fast forward to, I would mention that we did have the year group from hell. The year 6s were just horrendous. But we got there, we did the SATs, we did it, we were like, hooray. Cut forward to the summer. One of my year group colleagues, she is one of my best mates. She basically left to go and be a deputy head at another school, which was really sad. I was in tears over it because I was just like, you can't leave me. But she left, and she was sorry about it. But I just thought, oh, she's left. And then I saw who they'd hired instead of her, and I went, oh no, he's awful. Like, I'd met him at a couple of cluster meetings, and I'd gone, oh God, no, not him. And I thought immediately, I just went, right, okay, well, whatever, I'm sure it'll be fine. Because it's a lovely school, and the SLT are nice and the head's nice, so I'm sure it'll be fine. Anyway, so I was stressed anyway. I'd had a house move, which I'd had to leave. It sounds really first world problem-y, but I had to leave a house that we really liked because the landlord was selling it. but we'd been there 3.5 years. So we'd really, really loved the place. And we had to move pretty quickly to somewhere that wasn't amazing. It was just awful, it wasn't awful, but it wasn't my cup of tea. So I was really depressed about that. I was like, oh, for goodness sake. And a move is a move. It's stressful anyway. And then you've got kids and you've got everything else in the mix, and childcare isn't really an option, even though we have lovely grandparents. They're not overly present a lot of the time, and they live quite far away. So we don't have that childcare on tap that we can go, oh, can you just look after so-and-so for, an hour or whatever? We don't have that facility. So anyway, I get a call over the summer holidays. It was about middle of August or something. And it was basically telling me that my job shares partner had taken his own life, which was just, it hit you like a ton of bricks. It was just, and I cried. I was just like, oh my God, because I've met him on several occasions. I was really close to my job share, and I still am. We message and text each other. She's moved away, but we message and text each other now. And at the time, the shock, I don't think I've had a shock like that before, thinking about it. Like, you've had your grandparents die and you've had, that sort of thing. And that's a shock in itself. But this was a different kind of shock. It was and he was the least likely person that you would ever suspect. And I mean, my job share, obviously the world had just fallen apart for her, and she wasn't coming back, which was totally understandable. So it didn't really dawn on me. I was more concerned for her. I was more upset about the whole thing. I was like, oh my gosh, what's happened? Why is he dying? And it was awful. And then as the summer was going through, it then started to dawn on me that I was like, oh, who is going to be my job share? Where am I, who's going to help me do the class? This sounds really ridiculous, but who's going to help me do my classroom? Because I had my partner, like, he didn't have any time off over the summer because he'd used it all for childcare during the last year. And so we had really no one that I could just drop her off to and go, can you just have her for like 6 hours while I sort out the classroom? I mean, 6 hours is nothing, because really, as we know, it takes about a week. And I told you, Sharon, I think that I walked in, I remember just walking into that empty classroom because the teacher before had literally taken everything. He'd taken everything off the walls. Everything was stripped. Usually you kind of leave stuff, don't you? You kind of leave the stuff that you need on the boards, because as we know, you need about 1 billion things in your class, because to teach properly, you need like all the right math stuff, all the right English stuff, all the right, everything else, which drives me nuts. Because we never had that 20 years ago. But anyway, and I just went and stood in this empty classroom, and I did cry. I cried because I just thought, I can't. In my head, I was going, I can't do this. This is going to be, like,
this is a 3-person job.
Wow.
Over a period of time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tray label. You're talking everything. Tray labels, laminating, printing, backing the paper, and it was. I mean, it's not a job I liked anyway. I'll be honest. I always let my TAs organise my classrooms for me. They loved it, and I let them, because I'd be like, oh, you're much better at it than me. But to just stand there and realise I was on my own, I didn't even have a TA because I was getting a new TA. So I didn't even know who my TA was going to be. And usually you're kind of, you're quite buddy with, usually I've had a TA that's gone, oh, let me know when you're in and I'll come in and help out. And they've been brilliant. I didn't even know who my TA was going to be. So I was like, I'm really on my own doing this. And I kind of set about doing it. I had to bring my kids in while I did it, which was a bit of a nightmare. And I think I got it to some sort of substandard where it kind of passed to be it wasn't your NQT or ECT, classroom with all flowers and everything. It looked what it looked. And I was like, I don't care. This is what you're getting, because, I've got everything I should have on the walls. I'm not doing any more. And so I'd already felt a bit taken aback. I already felt really demoralized and just kind of like, oh my God, I already felt exhausted. To be honest, I felt exhausted before term even started. I felt that kind of dread. The dread overtook me. I had a meeting with the head. He was really lovely and just kind of explained to me that, look, we're going to, you're 3 days a week, you're part-time. we're going to get someone in to do the other 2 days. Didn't know who that was going to be either. We're going to get someone to do them, but if you could do all the planning, that'd be great. So I was like, okay. So I kind of went, okay, to start with. Oh, and by the way, you're the subject coordinator of the 2 subjects. You know, I mean, it was RE and PSHE, but still, it was still a subject that you had to, you know, look after. So I was like, okay. And so I just remember sitting in the office going, okay. And then not saying much back, just kind
It's
of
almost
going,
like, and
right.
we'd like you to be site manager. Okay. And HR.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just,
Okay.
I know, exactly.
Sarah,
It was a bit
what was your input on this?
I've just written down part-time should mean part-time. I am so utterly smitten of hearing people tell the direct story, reading it in our group on a daily basis of where people are going part-time for their own well-being, family balance, whatever very legitimate and legally entitled reasons, and then are having the P taken out of them in terms of, yeah, you're doing 3 days, but can you do all of the planning? No, I plan for my 3 days.
I'd never come across it before. And because of underneath the circumstances as well, I kind of, I guess I took it on the chin. I just kind of went, oh, well, okay, it just means planning 2 extra days. Okay, well, I can do that. Let's see how that goes. Anyway, so our new person that had taken over from my old friend, he was now the new maths coordinator. And he brought with him some shiny new maths plan that no one understood, that no one got. We had to make all our own resources for it. So we weren't allowed to use anything like, you know, White Rose or anything like that. We had to use, you know, and Hampshire are quite like that. Hampshire are a bit like, oh, you have to make all your own resources. Whereas some, you know, some counties are really lenient, and some counties are like, oh yeah, we just use White Rose, it's fine for maths. But they were very much like, no, we make all our own results. You make all your own sheets. Well, okay, so you're making your own sheets, but you're making it for, you know, sort of higher ability, lower ability, you know, the ones that really don't get it. So practically Key Stage 1 stuff. And then you're kind of, so you're doing that, but you're doing that for 3 lots. So you're doing it for the whole year group. So I had to do the maths planning, and no one got it. It wasn't just me. I was like, I'm not being thick. Like my friend was the maths coordinator before, and she would have told me if anything was wrong or if I was doing anything wrong. And, you know, I planned it, you know, loads for year 6. And all of a sudden it was just, you know, this was wrong, that was wrong. Oh, no, you know, I was getting my year group partner that I had. She wasn't amazing. She was just really picky. And she'd be messaging me on my days off going, oh, by the way, I've changed the maths planning because, I don't know, blah, 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 because my children didn't get it or something. And then she'd CC in the maths coordinator. Ooh. And I'd just be like, I was like, why have you done that? Like, why? And it wasn't even like, you know how you might you'd only do that if it got serious. Like, you'd just keep it between you, wouldn't you? You try and get, would you mind just tweaking it a little bit, just so my class, you know, whatever, get it. But she went straight, but it was just a blank, you know, and then that's what she carried on doing. So she took it upon herself on the days that I wasn't there, for Thursdays and Fridays, to tweak all the planning. And, you know, I was supposed to be grateful because I had the PPA equivalent of a full-time teacher. So I was given every Wednesday afternoon's PPA, and I was like, that's so nice of you. Thank you so much. Because of course I also, on top of that, I had a really difficult class. I had children that were, I mean, I'll be honest, I only lasted 6 weeks into the term, because I just had children that had so many needs. I had children that were kicking off, that were trashing the classroom, that needed so much more support than what I could give them as just a human being or as a single teacher. My new TA that started, she was lovely, but she'd never been a TA before. So it was like, right, okay. And they gave her one of these children as a one-to-one to look after. And she was she managed a gym or something. I don't even think she'd had even a background education, And so she was just like, what am I supposed to be doing with him? Like, what do I do? And I'm going, I don't need this on top of trying to run the class. And then I was basically having to write out what she had to do every day.
I remember years ago, so this is probably about 1999 into 2000. And I started work. It doesn't even exist anymore. It was called Hope High School in Salford. There's no two ways about it. It was tough. Now, I'm no stone jug when it comes to teaching. I've done a fair few years in what we call challenging schools. They're my type. But this was like the Wild West until you were established. And then when you were established, you had got the best set of kids in the world. The types who'd go, I'll headbutt that Ofsted inspector for you. No, we don't need you to do that, love. It's all right. Because they'd obviously got like these abandonment issues that supply teachers would come and go. So they were just like, are you here to stay? Yeah. And I had this brilliant head of department called Richard Howes. And we had this class called 8-0. And they were wild. And he came to me and he said, because it was just when lesson objectives were starting and outcomes, which I could never match up. I never knew the difference between an objective and an outcome. I could never suss it. And he said, you've got one objective. If at any given point in the next hour, they are all sat down at the same time, it's been a good lesson. And I don't care what you do or how you do it. Let's aim to get them sat down, because there's some classes who throw things, there's some classes who fight, and there's some that run round. These were the runners. And over time, that's where I developed the game boy-girl, Sarah. Over time, no teaching and learning took place. It was relationship building. It was about just establishing what, and eventually, we tamed 8-0. We might be skipping a little bit here because we haven't got to the point where after 6 weeks of this, you go, I'm out.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, we haven't. I'm terrible. I do chat forever. So.
No, it's fine. But let's just do that little bit and then we will come back to this. Okay. Remind me, Sarah, I want to do this talking around all this planning and all this. I'm going to link it back in. Don't worry, there's method in my madness. So after 6 weeks of lunacy, what do you do?
6 weeks of lunacy, I think I then got COVID. I was really ill. And then I still had people contacting me when I was off ill. And I was just like, I can't. I remember every Monday morning getting a text from the woman who'd taken over for the 2 days. It was a consistent woman. It was a woman that knew the school. But it was just, page-long emails of, so-and-so's done this and, you need to follow up with this and this has happened and so. I told their parents that you would do this. And so you wake up to that first thing on a Monday, because like then it got to the point where I didn't want to read my emails over the weekend. I was like, I'm not even touching my emails because I was getting them Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just from various different people. And I think it got to the point where did we have the half term? I think we might have had the half term, the one we're in now, or nearly there. And I woke up on the Monday morning. So I think I'm skipping a bit because during the half term I did ring the education help hotline because I was quite worried about myself. I was like, I'm not me. I'm not myself. My family had all noticed it. My mum and my sister were like, we were trying to have a conversation with you and you just weren't even there. You were just blank. And it's because all my energy was on work. And even though you left on a Wednesday, you didn't leave it on a Wednesday. It was with you and it was there. And you were thinking, I've got to do this. I've got to finish this. I've got to get this done. I mean, I was working till 5:30 every evening and still because I had to pick my youngest up from nursery at 6, that still wasn't enough because you had a staff meeting. You had people coming into you wanting a chat or just, and you were just sitting there. And I used to sit there going, I'm not going to get this done. And I would try and avoid taking work home with me. I think that's where the stress built up because I knew once I got home, I was mum and I'm mum until about 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9. And then what you're supposed to do, sit down then and mark a load of books and, sort of then do some of your planning. I just thought I think I think I just had a kind of had a cut-off point. I went, I'm not feeling that. I thought it's fine. I can get it all done the day. It's fine. So I missed out lunch breaks. I missed out breaks. I wasn't taking proper breaks. I was just kind of, so looking back, it was total on a complete burnout. It was just, I burnt myself out within 6 weeks, basically. And I vividly remember sitting there looking at the clock going, I can't believe it's 5:30 already. I can't believe it's 5:30 and I've got all this to do. And I've got to leave to pick my little one up. And I'm sitting here and it's just all still here. And, and you just had to kind of leave it. So, but anyway.
Can I ask you something? If memory serves you right, how much were you getting paid for these 3 days a week? What was your take home?
Not much. I think it was only like 1,500 a month, if that. Looking in the hours now, it just, yeah.
And that was my point. So if you take that 1,500 and divide by 4, you're probably on about what, 350 a week?
Yeah, less than, I don't know, someone at McDonald's, I think.
You're doing all of this for £350 a week.
Yeah, stupid.
And I think that's something we need to remind ourselves as well. Yeah. There is a complete myth that this is a really, really well-paid job. £350 a week, and you are making yourself.
No, and I call it and I remember having this meeting with my head, and because he called me in, this was towards the end as well, before I went off with COVID, and he kind of went, is there something? He called me into his office, and I don't know, we'll just have a chat. And of course, the maths coordinator was there because he was the head of upper key stage 2.
Supergrass.
Yeah. So he was there with his note and pad, and I was like, oh God, this isn't good. He's there with his blimmin' notepad. I thought, I've never been called into a meeting with a notepad before. Anyway, so I was just sitting there, and my head just went, am I missing something, Lisa? And I said, what do you mean, are you missing something? And he said, well, he did, and he was really lovely. He was a really nice guy, but bless him, he wasn't very good at picking up on emotional cues, I think. And I just burst into tears, and I went down. I said, I'm not coping. I can't cope with this. I can't cope with the workload. I can't cope with it all. And he goes, okay, he goes, I totally get it. He goes, I totally get it, but there's not much I can do. The best I can do is obviously any deadlines that come along, they won't apply to you. You can get those in later. And I'm still thinking, it won't matter later because something else will just come along. And it would just snowball into something else. I'm like, that's not going to help me. So anyway, the meeting lasted about 5 minutes. I just went, right, if that's all, I'm just going to go. Because by this point, I was like, blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah. So I went off for the half term. And then I got up that morning. And I went, something in me just went, I can't do this. I can't. I physically can't go back into that classroom. There's something in me stopping me. And I thought, I'm going to text the deputy head because she's always been really lovely. And I just sent her this really long message. And I said, I'm really, really sorry. I said, I can't come in. I said, it's not, I'm not well. I said, it's just, I've been up all night crying. And it was true. I've been up since about 2 a.m, just going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I can't physically go back in that classroom. I can't do the job. I can't face people. And, and it was just, yeah. And but what had made me built up that courage was reading all the Life After Teaching Facebook page. I'd been reading that the whole time, but I was going through this. And it was such a massive help because there was just so much in there from people that were going through exactly the same thing. And then people who were telling their stories of, I've left the classroom, this has happened, and blah, 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 I've done this, da, da, da. And then it got you kind of thinking, oh, maybe, because you're in this kind of little boxed world, aren't you, in a school? And everyone's there. Everyone's self-sacrificing themselves. Everyone's throwing themselves onto the altar of, I don't know, Ofsted or whatever. And it's just kind of, you feel like you should be doing the same thing. And then now I'm in the position I'm now. I get angry at those self-sacrificing people. It's your fault now. It's you. It's the yes people that are going, yes, I'll do all the work. I'll work till midnight. And I'm like, if everyone stood up and said, we're not doing this, we're only doing our hours that we are supposed to be doing, the school would come to a halt, number one. But I don't know. It really irritates me now.
But what that is And there is a reason for this, because I have spent so long immersed in this world. There are so many contributory factors. The first one is, in the main, we are people pleasers. Until we've had that coming out of the bottle, we are people pleasers. Lay on top of that fear of getting in trouble. Okay, I need to please you. I don't want to get in trouble. And then I'll give you the triple threat. We've been gaslit into believing we're letting children down.
Gaslight is the word, yeah.
Go on, Sarah's finger of doom is just Sarah.
And there's the fourth one, which is we've been disempowered as staff bodies by the erosion of what the unions can do. Because I wrote down, and you're too young, Lisa Mead, but when Sharon and I were at school in the 1980s, teachers did exactly what you've described, collectively, en masse, for a series of months. In my third year at high school, they went, no, we're not doing lunchtime clubs. We're not doing break duties. We're not writing reports. I've got my reports from high school still. And there was one year where literally it said, due to industrial action, this teacher has not written a report. They said no to categorically anything that wasn't teaching and learning in the classroom. And as a result of that, out of that came things like Burgundy Book and what is now STPCD, because a collective action was taken nationally. That doesn't happen anymore.
No, it needs to again. It really does. There needs to be a national movement of teachers just going, do you know what? Because I call it the silent expectation, because there was this kind of, sort of, well, how am I supposed to get this done? When am I supposed to do this? And it was that kind of like at home, but no one wanted to say it. No SLT wanted to say it. The head didn't want to say it. The Key Stage 2 coordinator didn't want to say it. That's when you do it at home. And you knew that's where you were supposed to be doing it. But I was just like, no, because by the time I get home, it's 6, and you just end up, and I did used to do it before I had children. I would go home, I would take my books home with me. I was just as bad as everyone else, I suppose. And I suppose it's when you have that awakening and you kind of just go, no, my children come first. And I think that's where, and you think I'm doing the bare minimum. I'm doing the bare minimum, and it's still not enough. And yet I'm coming in at 8:00 every morning. I'm there till 5:30, and it's still not enough. And it's just, and then I realized I was trying to fit in all a full-time job into a part-time job, which was never going to work in the first place. But yeah, so, I mean, there was one day I remember, and I'll just go, sorry, I'm going back to it, but I went to the funeral of my job share's husband, and it was horrendous. It was awful. It was just, there were so many people, it was a massive turnout, and the head came, and, loads of other teachers, some other teachers came. And I remember looking at the time and thinking, oh, it's 12:00. Oh, we've got to get back. We've got to, and I was just put back into the classroom. I didn't get told, have a cup of tea, have your lunch, nothing. Because by the time we got back, lunch had finished. And I was just expected to kind of go back into class and be a normal person. And I just remember thinking, this isn't right. This isn't right. That I've been expected to come back after a funeral that's been the most horrendous funeral I've probably ever been to. Because I've never been to a funeral of a young person before, of someone who was only in his 30s. And it was just awful. And I just remember thinking, what other job would this happen, where you would go to a funeral and then you'd be expected just to come back and go straight into teaching and just be all like, right, okay, we're going to do this now. And that was just another nail in the, it was just like, pardon the pun, but it was like, I can't, it was just another thing. And I just went, I think all these things added up together. And then, so basically I took some time out after that. I took 6 weeks off. I've never been off sick ever. And I remember phone up the doctors, and I was like, oh God, what am I going to say, and my partner was like, just tell them how you're feeling. And, I wasn't suicidal or anything like that, but I was just so low. And I just kind of, to the point where I didn't even want anything to do with education. I was just kind of like, absolutely not. I'm going to go and do something completely different. I'm going to go and do project management or something or whatever. And my brother, who's a project manager, kind of went, it's really competitive. He said, like, oh, I don't know if it'll be for you. And he goes, why don't you do tutoring? And I just remember going to him, no, absolutely not. I'm not going anywhere near any more children. I'm not doing any more teaching. I'm blah, blah, blah. And I had this real like blank about it. And I was like, no. And then you have that time off to reflect. And I, ended up going back. I went back I said to my head, I have to go back for 2 days a week. I wasn't in charge of a class anymore. So all I did was PPA cover, which was perfect for me. But it was almost like I was the fragile doll. It was like, oh, let's just be nice to you. If the class if I had to raise my voice because the class were being unruly, some invisible person from SLT would come in and go, are you okay? Are you all right? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I've been doing this 20 years. I've had much worse. This is fine. I'm just raising my voice because they won't listen. And just, do you know what I mean? It was kind of that perception. I just thought, oh God, I can't stay here. I have to go. I don't know where to, but I can't. I'll see the year out, which I did. I did see the year out. And it had changed to the school. I mean, I've been teaching there 5 years by that point, and you could see the changes that had happened. The head had brought in his little boy brigade. So it was basically in staff meetings, it was no penis, no opinion. So it was basically, sorry, I don't know if you'll be able to edit that out.
That's gonna be a reel.
At that point, I remember saying, oh my gosh, like our voices don't even count because it'd hide all these male teachers. So it was just literally all these male teachers making all the decisions. And it was like some sort of Victorian boardroom.
Were they blue shiny suits and brown shoes?
Yeah, some of them were.
Yeah,
some of them were.
Nice.
Oh Lord. And it was just like, well, I think we should do this or that. And I'm literally sitting there going, that's what I said 2 minutes ago. Like, didn't I just say that 2 minutes ago? But because a bloke had come up and said it. So I think the head had built himself this little empire of just men at the top. And I was glad to leave by that point. I was like, it's time. I'm going. And I went with nothing to go to, really. I kind of just was like, right, well, I'll go into tutoring then because I'm qualified. It's what I know. And then I just kind of, and I signed up with a few agencies and I did home education children. And that was an eye opener in itself. It was like, wow, there are these children sitting at home rotting, doing absolutely nothing. And that's been a complete eye opener. And then I started off doing just a group. I thought, do you know what? I'll set up a little online maths group. I'll do a little online maths group, £2.50, just see how many children join. And I had an overwhelming response. And then all of a sudden parents were going, do you do English? Do you do this? Do you do Key Stage 3? Do you do Key Stage 1? Oh my gosh. And then I thought, and it was only when the year was up and I was doing bits of everything. I was kind of like a jack of all trades last school year. And I was here, there and everywhere. And I just thought I could probably make a job doing this.
Hello, loyal listeners. We're not going to go full on Bob Geldof during Live Aid, but if you could give us some of your money, even pennies, to help us fund the amazing Pit Pony podcast, the link is in the episode notes below. It's called Buy Us a Coffee, and we really do appreciate your contributions. Thank you.
So I work 3.5 days a week now, and it's brought stresses of itself. I'm not saying I'm not stress free. I'm not, because like running your own business is never stress free. I don't think. I was like, as I'm learning, I'm not skipping off into the sunset every day. It is hard work. It's hard work, and it's a lot of worry, and it's, oh my gosh, the buck stops with me, and if I haven't done this, I don't get paid. And it's things like that. So it's but on the whole, I'm so happy to be free, and but also sad because I still love that feeling of being in front of a class of children. That's I don't think that ever leaves you. You still love that aspect of teaching, and you know, the relationship you've had with those children. And I've had some amazing children over the years, absolutely amazing children. But yeah, no, I'm really excited about where I am now. But just, you know, I mean, it was, I have to say, it was probably the Facebook group that just sort of opened my eyes to it all, because you didn't have that before. So your worries and anxieties were like, you might have shared them with colleagues, but colleagues, you know, you don't know who you probably trust. No one else is really this feeling almost the same as you. Or they might be, but won't do anything about it because, it's fun. It's a status quo. I'll stay where I am because it's easy, and not easy, but it's, you know, I don't like change and whatever. So it was great. It was just, I would just reel through people's stories, and I haven't put mine on there yet. I need to, because
I think this podcast will cover it. But
yeah.
I think, you know what I mean? I know you haven't put your story on the Facebook page, but for the last 55 minutes, you've just told it.
I said to my partner, I went, I'll only be about half an hour.
But what I want to say to you is this, Lisa, because Sarah and I, you know, we sit at the helm of life to teach in the pit pony and that kind of thing. But we also have a huge tuition business in a national tuition business, and Connects has started pretty much with what you're talking about, with me landing outside of the classroom going, what have I got? What can I monetize? What can I utilize? And this is the peak irony for me. And Sarah and I, actually, we've now got a classroom-based learning centre as our head office, and we are having a ball. We're having an absolute ball. We have built our own school. We've even got a stock cupboard. For all sorts done.
But just to be clear, for Ofsted purposes, we are not our own school.
No, we built our own imaginary school.
It's an imaginary school.
Yeah, imaginary school. You're not coming inspecting us. I mean, we had a dog in there today. We're just making it up as
Amazing.
But this is what it is for me in the world of tuition. And I know that tuition sits as if it sits in the world of business. So you have to straddle two worlds. You have to have business acumen. You have to have compliance. You have to understand taxation and payments and terms and conditions. Yes, you do. But what you also have then, and this is where it is magical, you do not plan a single lesson. You prepare for a session. And on a sixpence, you can turn and meet whatever that kid needs. You don't have to show anybody. There is no accountability. And you can absolutely meet those children at their point of need. You don't have to have worksheets. You can use AI. You can use ChatGPT. You can give them a word as original for getting an answer right in the middle of it. You can do small groups. You can do one-to-one. And I have seen progress made. When we were doing the national tutoring program a couple of years ago, the reading ages that were improved because we threw out all the bullshit that sits around, tweak this plan, and that's the point I wanted to go back to. Tweak what plan? I've got 20, 30 years experience. I can move a child up 2 sets in English without writing a single plan down, because this to me is tutoring. Something hasn't landed with that kid. That's all. You have got teachers day in, day out delivering content heavy curriculums. They are the ones who are ploughing through Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, and Inspector Calls. The tutor acts as the middleman. I am going to translate for you what's being delivered and turn it into the information you need to apply it to an exam or in the classroom. And quite frankly, it is a joy. We call it tutoring, but it's actually teaching. It's teaching as it should be. And in mine and Sarah's school, non-school, guess what's on the wall? Nothing. There's a plot and a couple of shelves and some canvases of Sarah's trip to Alaska. It's nothing. So it is in all the time I've been doing it, having a poster on the wall hasn't made an ounce of difference. You stop a kid after they've left school and say, how did you do in your GCSE maths? or did brilliantly. If it wasn't for that poster on my teacher's wall, I'd have been packing in. And actually, going back, the busyness of a classroom doesn't even suit kids' needs these days.
No, it doesn't.
You know,
I work with so many now. Yeah, they really have come out of school, and a lot of them actually are key stage 3 around that age where they're 11 to 14, and they've come out because they have anxiety. They can't cope in that environment. They can't. All their needs aren't being met, and the parents have gone, I don't know what else to do but take them out. And now what I get is, because I'm doing so many home ed children, I get, like, first of all, I'll get a story from the parents, and they'll just, and it's you just think, oh my gosh, like, there's so much unnecessary stuff that, sort of bogs children down. I mean, even I've got she's nearly 9, and she's just gone into year 4, and she was dreading it. And she was like, oh, mummy, I really don't want to go into year 4. And I thought back to my days at school, and I was like, I used to look forward to going to the next year group. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'm year 4 now. Oh, I'm older. And she was dreading it. And I said, well, what are you dreading? What's going to be so bad? She said, mummy, the maths is going to be harder. That's going to be harder. And I was thinking, do you know what? I wasn't great at maths at school. I really wasn't. But I didn't dread it. I didn't go in dreading it every day and thinking, oh, the maths is going to be harder next year. I just didn't. And it's really interesting seeing her, because obviously you don't get to see the children you teach at home a lot. And so coming from her and her little fears and doubts, and I just thought, that's really sad that and she's doing really well at school. She's progressing and everything else. I just went to her parents' evening, actually, and she's getting help for maths and stuff, which is absolutely fine. I've said that's great as long as she's happy or whatever. But there was that, she wasn't looking forward to year 4 because I don't know how far it sets it.
And this is the bit that gets me. Let's reverse engineer what we want for our young people. We want to prepare them for life. We want to prepare future leaders, good citizens that contribute to our society. We want good people. We don't put mental health at the helm. Not one bit. It's a bolt-on day where they have a drop-down day in school, and so on them and talks to them about some nonsense. PSHE curriculum is, again, it's a bolt-on. We are not even embracing technology. You weren't even allowed to use White Rose maths. Oh my God, you want me to continually we assess our children using pen and paper, for God's sake. Nobody uses pen and paper anymore apart from us old timers who still make notes. All right.
But I'm so with you on that. Because I remember doing a year 6 moderation. This is the year before I left. And, we were telling these children, oh, your handwriting, oh no. And I remember thinking, I feel really bad that I'm telling this child that their handwriting is, not great. What's that going to matter in 10, 20 years? What's that going to matter? Why are we still judging these children on their handwriting? This is absolutely ridiculous. And I think that was another kind of penny drop moment where I just kind of went, this is insane. This has all gone absolutely nuts. And I sat in that year 6 moderation, and I was like, well, he's clearly, working towards, or he's clearly, at his level because of this, and this. And I just was sitting there just going, I feel like such a fraud. I feel like a fraud because...
But isn't that part of the problem? Because something you said really landed with me. I've been sat here quietly reflecting on my own primary school days. And I don't ever remember even going through high school having a sense of next year's going to be harder. I always had a sense of next year's going to be, I wouldn't be able to articulate it like this at 8 years old, but it's going to be the next bit. It was never about harder. It was about just, it's what's coming next. I'm going to be in school till I'm 16 and
I'm going to be able to we're going to be able to sit on the benches at the back of the assembly hall. You don't have to sit on the floor anymore.
But even from a learning point of view, when we were schooled, when we were educated, it was about the next, it was just about what's next, not about hitting the next milestone, the next target, the next grade, the demonstrating progress. And that, for me, you say it to me quite well, not to me directly, but it comes up about weighing the pig and everything being about targets and all the rest of it. And no,
I just think it's got to saturation point now, I think. I mean, obviously I've not been in the school now for about a year, but it has, and if, you know, and I mean, an Ofsted inspector is meant to pull a child out and go, oh, well, they're supposed to know all their targets for, you know, reading and writing and math. You put any child, I'm sorry, but I mean, even my daughter is fairly intelligent. And I'll ask her what book is she doing in school at the moment. She's like, I don't know, so it's Stone Age. And I'm like, oh, fair enough. You know, but it's like if an Ofsted, if they could hear that you know, said that, you'd be, you know, I remember being shown around the school once by the head teacher, and she said to this year R kid, he was just kind of in the sandpit or whatever, and she went, and what are you learning today? What are you learning? And he went, I'm playing. And she went, I'll come back to you later. But he's just told you he's playing. Like, he's just having fun.
You can't even get kids to articulate what they want for the tea, let alone what the bloody targets are. But anyway.
I know. Anyway,
I
could go on.
That's wonderful. Yeah. It's wonderful. So let us now go. You're out. You're in the wonderful world of tutoring, which we love, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place. And one of the things I will say at this point is a lot of people on Life After Teaching actually ask questions about tutoring because it is a natural segue. So Sarah, what I might do is, because I know that we get so many, I might do some clarity calls where people are thinking about next.
That sounds amazing. Little group calls for the grown-ups who want to do tuition.
For the old timers.
Yeah, for the
You're not
No, seriously, what I could do is...
She was the one that said that we were old.
Yeah, you know that podcast that we never put out? So what we can do is, I might do that in Life After Teaching. I might open up some, because we used to do that a couple of years ago. We used to do opportunities to get in a Zoom room with us. Sarah, put that on the to-do list for tomorrow.
Added.
Yeah, and if anybody's interested, they can get on a call with me. I'll do some small group calls and work out what your next steps need to be. Perfect, job done. Right, so with that in mind, these flashes of genius come to us every now and then. You're out. You know what I'm going to ask you. You know what I'm going to ask you since you've left after a year. What has been a moment or something that's happened to you in a sliding doors moment that would not have happened to Lisa Mead had she not have left the classroom?
The overall is just being able to drop my children off at school and pick them up. And it sounds really simple, and you're also able to be there for things. Like, she had an assembly the other day and it was African drumming, and it was from 9 till 9:30 or something. And I went along, and it was just so lovely just being able to sit there and go, oh, I'm at, you know, and she was so happy that I was there. And she was like, you know, you could see her sort of looking over at me and da-da-da. And I just thought, I wouldn't, and I just sat there and I went, I wouldn't, and I almost did actually cry, because I thought I wouldn't actually be here if I was still in the classroom, because if it had fallen on the day I was working, you can't swap a day, or you can't, as brilliant as my head was, and if you did go to him and go, you know, there's a really special thing, but this wasn't you know, it's just an assembly, but it's that bit of child.
I know the special thing. It's African drumming. No, you will not leave. It's really weird you say that, because I know on the odd occasion I managed to get myself into my kids' school. Now it was different with Ellie, because by the time she was in year 5, I was out, but Jamie not so much. And there was every now and then, I think when I was on maternity leave with Ellie, I could go into Jamie's school and be a read. And he said, there is no greater feeling than seeing your mum in school. And what was really ironic, Jamie now works for our accountancy firm. So who we're with in Warrington, he works at the accountancy firm. And the other day, me and Sarah were in for a meeting. And he said to me when I got home, he said, it felt like how it used to feel when your mum comes into school. And I thought that's, so I would say on that final note, it might have been a lovely sliding doors moment for you, but it was also a very, very special moment for your daughter, even though half an hour of African drumming would have been my absolute worst nightmare.
It was loud. It was loud. But it was lovely. It was just so nice. And there was a cross-country event I got to go to as well, of hers, and she came third in the race. And I just thought I wouldn't be able to be here. I would be at, doing something, something else to with school.
And actually, here's a thought for you. And when your daughter looks back on her time at school, she will remember cross-country and African drumming and all that kind of stuff, rather than the tweaked worksheet for maths that made all the difference one Tuesday afternoon in October. So I want to thank you for spending time with us. It's been lovely. Your energy has been fantastic. It's been really, really great. I think a lot of what I think a lot of what you've said will resonate with so many of our listeners, particularly about workload and the importance of keeping scrolling through our group, because you're not on your own. You're not on your own. So, on behalf of myself and Lady Sarah Dunwood and our listeners and our production team, I want to thank you for spending time, Lisa Mead. And if we decide to air the podcast, I'll let you know.
Thank you very much. It's been really lovely. It's been my absolute pleasure.
Thanks for staying with us during another great episode of the Pit Pony podcast. And on behalf of myself, Sarah Dunwood, Mike Roberts at Making Digital Real, we wish you all the very best, and we'll see you soon. If you wish to contact me directly for a support session or a clarity call for your next steps, please find my link in the comments below. See you soon.